Hi, this is Vijay Jagadeesh, and this class we are going to discuss editorial from the newspaper Hindu dated 20 March 2020, and this is the newspaper you have in my background. So what is the front page saying? It is saying COVID-19 PM calls for social distancing and what he calls a Janata curfew. The coming 22nd March, that being a Sunday, people may be coming out. So he is saying self-quarantine where people have to stay in the home, thereby this spreading of coronavirus can be reduced. Then we have 5 cases. That means the total of 5 people have died in India due to coronavirus. That is an alarming increase in the death. And then, as usual, when we talk about civil service, we need editorial. The concepts are derived from that. From today onwards, I am going to introduce a new module called follow-up module. What is that? Follow-up module. That means those topics which we have discussed already and that is appearing again in the editorial, or there is an update in the newspaper, then I'll ask you to read that. So today we got an opportunity that there is a such editorial has come. One is will Modi's COVID-19 fund, we have seen that COVID emergency fund of 10 million India will be giving to the SAARC countries to establish a fund to deal with the virus. Will that fund will revive the SAARC? We have discussed in one article, one editorial, that SAARC is being undermined by India and India is promoting BIMSTEC, but here this article says whether this is a breaking of ice to make SAARC another viable regional forum. So read this. Any doubts you can ask me. You can send me a message. My number is 9995916183. And one more follow-up also there. Drastic but necessary. We have discussed about anti-defection law. We have said that in Madhya Pradesh there's a crisis, the horse trading and all expected. And there is an article. It says that Supreme Court has asked the minister from Manipur that he should not enter the assembly. That means almost he is being disqualified by the Supreme Court. So we have seen that a speaker is the ultimate authority to decide on the defection, but when he is not taking any action, I told you in the other video, which is given in the description if you want, you can see that Supreme Court has observed we can create a tribunal whether the speaker is becoming a partial or he is acting in the party norms. So that is another follow-up. So 2 follow-up for today. One is the article on SAARC, the other is article on the defection. Okay. So coming to the today's editorial, today's article which we are going to discuss. So what I want you to have is you should have today's newspaper, you should have a notebook, and you should have again Lakshmikant with you. And last 3 days we are again having. So that is what you have to relate the current affairs to the concept. That is how you become successful. And you have to spend a quality time in the newspaper, at least 1 hour or maximum 2. If you are a beginner, spend 2 hours or 3 hours also, doesn't matter. But at least 1 hour you have to spend on the newspaper. So we'll be reading this editorial today. It is written by Mr. Gautam Bhatia, and it is that giving human rights commissions more teeth. So take the article. The article has been shared in our Telegram channel. The link of the Telegram channel is also given in the description. Now take the article. We'll read it. Okay, I'll tell you what are the points important you have to note in here. Yeah, this can be a mains question. This can be a question in the mains. Okay, I can frame a question. So at the end of the video, I'll frame a question. I'll give you. If you want to write, you read this article, and based upon this, you can write the question which I'm going to give you. Some of the preliminary questions also possible. So let us start. Yeah. So article is giving Human Rights Commission more teeth. Okay, so from the heading itself we can see that the National Human Rights Commission is not having enough power to punish the culprits or punish the people, government authorities which is violating the human rights. So this article is giving lights whether we can give some kind of power to them so that they can establish rule of law, they can uphold and protect the human rights. Okay, so in this I will also explain about the basics about the human rights. Okay, that will be a session followed by this. So let us go into the article. The Madras High Court is to decide whether the recommendation made by such panel are binding upon the state. Now write down in your notebook, the National Human Rights Commission, okay, its recommendation is not binding on the government. Its National Human Rights Commission is for the national level. Likewise, we have State Human Rights Commission. So either the State Human Rights Commission or the National Human Rights Commission, these recommendations are not binding on the government. So that is the present status. Now this High Court of Madras is going to review or going to investigate or check whether this recommendation can be made binding on the government. So based upon that only this article has been created. Okay, so let us read. In 1993, the Indian Parliament enacted the Protection of Human Rights Act. Write down this. Okay, Protection of Human Rights Act. It was passed in 1993. Based upon this act only, National Human Rights Commission has been created. That means National Human Rights Commission is not a constitutional body, it is a statutory body. Okay, write down. National Human Rights Commission is a statutory body because it was created by the Act of the Parliament. Okay, so Act of the Parliament means it is law passed by the Parliament. Okay, that is the Act of the Parliament. If it is already existing in the Constitution by a way of an article, then it is known as constitutional body. So National Human Rights Commission is a statutory body. The purpose of the Act was to establish an institution framework that could effectively protect, promote, and fulfill the fundamental rights guaranteed by the Indian Constitution. Now write down this. What is the purpose of having a Human Rights Commission? Is to give an institutional framework. Please underline that. Okay, institutional framework. Institutional framework means not just you are saying that we do have a human rights, but there is a framework, institution is there which will take care whether this human rights are followed or not. Okay, so that is the main purpose of having this. Then and it takes care of the fundamental right as well. It's not just about human rights, but the fundamental rights as well. To this end, Act created National Human Rights Commission and also human rights for the states. The national and the state human rights commissions are examples of what now called fourth branch institution. That means the institutions, see, we have seen a separation of power. We have a judiciary, we got executive, we got legislature. Like that, fourth branches is also there, in which election commission will come, in which UPSC will come. So this National Human Rights Commission is also a fourth branch of the democratic setup. So according to the classical account, democracy is sustained through a distribution of power through the branches of legislature, executive, judiciary. This I told you yesterday. With each branch acting as a checks and balance upon each other. However, the complexity of governance and administration in the modern world has necessitated the existence of a set of independent bodies which are charged with forming vital functions of oversight. Some of these bodies are constitutional. So the institutional bodies can be a constitutional body or it can be a statutory body. Okay, so the institute can be a constitutional body. Some of the example of constitutional body, election commission is given, CAG, control and auditor general is given. Others are established by the law. For example, information commission. Information commission is also a statutory body. Then human rights. So if you want, you can write a small note if you are new to this concept. If you already know, then fine. Otherwise, write down constitutional body. I have given only two examples here. Election commission, UPSC, CAG, constitutional body. That means they are created by the constitution. Then statutory body, Human Rights Commission, Information Commission are statutory body. They are created by the Act of the Parliament. In the 2.5 decades of their existence, that means it was created in 1993, so they are saying 25 years almost that. Okay. However, the function of the Human Rights Commission has come under the scrutiny and criticism. There has been an usual critics of the politicization of autonomous body. Write down this word, politicization of autonomous body. That means you might have heard about CBI is being used by the government against the opposition. Like that tunnel we have seen. So this is also happening. That those concepts are known by the name politicization of autonomous body. And selectiveness. Selective means they'll take cases only which is on priority on them. Like they will not choose on the basis of a viability of the cases. So priority based upon their own selection. So selection of the cases and the politicization of the autonomous body has become a criticism by the media as well as in public. Even more than the, however, it is alleged that for all intents and purpose, the Human Rights Commission are toothless. Underline the word toothless. That means it doesn't have a power. Okay. National Human Rights Commission doesn't have a power. That's what colloquially we say toothless. At the highest, they play an advisory role with the government left free to disobey or even disregard their finding. Now write down the recommendation given by the National Human Rights Commission is advisory. That means it is not binding. The government may take action or may not take action. Okay, they may disobey. They are free to disobey that. Pending cases. In this context, pending cases before the High Court of Madras has assumed great significance. A full bench of the High Court will be deciding upon whether recommendation made by the National Human Rights Commissions are binding on the respective states or the central government. or is entitled to rejected. That means as I said already, the Madras High Court will be checking whether the National Human Rights Commission recommendations are binding on the government or not. Under the Protection of Human Rights Act, the Human Rights Commissions are empowered to inquire into the violation of the human rights committed by the state authorities, either upon petition presented to them or upon their own initiative. Now write down. Okay, the Human Rights Commission can take up the cases when you go and file a case against somebody, or they can take the cases on their own initiative. We call that as suo moto. SUOMOTTO. Suo moto. Okay, suo moto means on their own also. You have seen that Hyderabad, the rape case, the accused were encountered by the police. In that case, suo moto, they have taken the case. Okay. So moto means they can take on their own initiative. The commissions are granted identical power to that of a civil court. Write down this point. National Human Rights Commission has the power of civil courts for investigation, such as examining witnesses, underline this, ordering of documents, they can ask any documents to be brought before them, receiving evidences, and so on. Okay, you might have seen in the Darbar movie that they will be coming and they will be saying that your encounters are wrong. Okay, so they will then, because it is Rajnikant, he can do this. He will say that you write whatever I want. He'll show a pistol against them. So those are actually in the movie, but in really the Human Rights Commission has got some power. People are afraid of Human Rights Commissions because they have a power of a civil court in investigation. They can call for the evidences. They can call for the documents. They can ask anybody to produce some evidence. So they have got a power of the civil courts. This point you have to write in your notebook right now. These proceedings are to be judicial proceedings, and they require that any person who is prejudicially affected by their outcome has a right to be heard. Okay, that means what we are saying is, because it is a judicial process, okay, so it assumes significance. Just write down that, because the civil court means it is a judicial process. The controversy before the Madras High Court stems from the issue of what is done after the National Human Rights Commission completes its inquiry and reaches the conclusion that the human rights have been violated. Section 18, write down this, Section 18 of the Act imposes the National Human Rights Commission to recommend to the concerned government to grant compensation to the victim. So somebody is saying that custodial death is there, custodial torture is there. So that case has come to the Human Rights Commission, and then they are saying that yes, human rights have been violated and there should be compensation to the victim. So this recommendation is given to the state government. Okay. So this is mentioned in the Section 18 of this Act. To initiate prosecution against the erring state authorities, to grant interim relief, and to take various steps. The key question revolves around the meaning. What does the recommend mean? So in the Section 18, there's a word called recommend. Okay. So does this recommend means it is just a consultation, or just forwarding an ideas, or does it means binding? So that is what they are going to verify. Normally, I am recommending means I am just recommending. Okay, that is. But in Constitution, it has got different interpretation. Particularly, we have seen some. There is some examples. I'll show you there. The full bench of the Madras High Court is hearing the case because different smaller benches have come to opposite conclusion about to undermine the opposite conclusion about the understanding of the word recommend. Okay, the recommend word has been differently. They have interpreted differently in the opposite manner. So that is why now it has gone to a full bench of the Madras High Court. In the context, according to one set of judges, this word needs to be taken in ordinary sense. Some people are saying yes, it can be taken in an ordinary sense. Recommendation means just a recommendation, a suggestion, or just a put forward. Okay, something which is suitable for some purpose, common purpose. That is the opinion of certain judges. Some people. Ordinary, the mere suggestion is not binding. Furthermore, in the Section 18 itself, they have said that the Human Rights Act also obligates the concern, underline the word obligation of the concerned government. The government to which the recommendation have given. So there's an obligation on the government. What is the obligation? Okay, it has to give a report, action taken report. Okay, underline that. Section 18, they are saying that recommendation will be given to the concerned government. And the Section 18 itself, it is given whether the action taken has to be reported back to the National Human Rights Commission. Therefore, this is the only obligation upon the government. if indeed the act is intended to make recommendation of the commission binding upon the government, it would have said so. It would not simply have required the government to communicate what is the action taken. So what they are saying is it is not clearly said that these recommendations are binding on the government, and government can say that there is no action taken on this also. After that, what happens? There is no idea. Okay, well, intuitively plausible. I means the author suggests that this view needs to be rejected for many reasons. Okay, so he's saying that why it should not be binding. It should be binding. So he is giving argument why it should be binding. The first is that there is often a gap between the ordinary meaning of the words and the meaning they have within the legal framework. Okay. For example, I'll tell you. Okay, there shall be a council of ministers headed by prime minister to advise the president. Now here shall means what? Okay, shall means it is not must. No. Okay, shall means I shall do it or shall I do it. Understood? So it's a kind of question. But you must do it. Okay, so wherever the shall is given in the constitution, it is actually meaning is must. Understood? So there shall be a council of minister who, so that is the thing. So what he's saying is, the argument by Gautam Bhatia is that the terms which are ordinarily used in a common letter is different from what is used in the legal framework. The legal meaning of the function in the context of the purpose on the statute with the word occurs very strong influence on how it is understood. For example, the Supreme Court held in the past overriding imperative of maintaining the judicial independence mandates that consultation of the civil with the Chief Justice of Judicial Appointment. That means this is what the establishment of collegium system. See, there is a word called consultation. This consultation, the meaning was changed to concurrence. That means they did not change the word consultation. The President will appoint the judges of Supreme Court in consultation with the Chief Justice of India. That is what the written in Article 126. But what happens, what the interpretation given by the Supreme Court is that this consultation means concurrence. That means it is binding on the president. So they have changed the meaning of the concept of concurrent consultation itself. So he is giving an example that whenever legal frameworks are there, the meaning may not be the same. Okay, so that is a example here. Recently, so another example he is giving, constitutional commitment. Of course, there is a need to be a good reason for interpretation of this kind. This brings us an purpose of Human Rights Act and the importance of the fourth branch institution. As indicated above, the Human Rights Act existence is to ensure the protection and promotion of human rights. That also we know already. To fulfill the purpose, the Act created an institutional framework via the Human Rights Commission. The Human Rights Commission thus are bodies that stand between the, write down this word, the human rights are the bodies that stand between the individual and the state. Okay, so state can do whatever they want to do because they are in power, but who will protect the state? There should be someone representing the who will protect the people. So that will be the Human Rights Commission. So that is a point you have to note down. And whose task is to ensure adequate realization of constitutional commitment in protecting the human rights. It stands to reason that if the state was left free to obey or disobey the finding of the commission, this constitutional role would be effectively pointless, as whatever the Human Rights Commission did, the final judgment call on whether to comply or not with the commitment under the Constitution is left to the government. Right, state authorities. Okay, so the work, whatever the work they have done, that becomes meaningless, because at the end, who will take the final decision to act on those recommendations? It's the state government. So there is the purpose of creating a Human Rights Commission itself is waste. That is what the author is arguing. This is that that means this it is a clear would defeat the entire purpose of the act. That's what he's saying. That means they have created a framework, but there is no action taken on it, and nobody is questioning it. So there is no purpose of having a Human Rights Commission. Indeed, in the past, courts have evoked constitutional purpose to determine the powers of the various fourth branch institution in cases of ambiguity. Okay, so this is not going to be the first time when the Supreme Court or any court is coming and giving the what exactly these people are doing or what exactly they need to do. He is giving an example. He is giving like there should be independency of the CBI. Here, the Supreme Court has said various judgment have enforced and strengthened the power of election commission. So he is giving election commission have been given a vast majority of powers which is not originally mentioned in when they were created. Example, the candidates has to give the details about their background, their corruption details, all this, their asset valuations. So all this has been given power from the Supreme Court to the judiciary. So he is saying that likewise National Human Rights Commission can also be given the power by the judiciary so that they can establish rule of law, they can establish what is known as the human rights protection and promotion. Okay. Now, and lastly, as pointed out above, the Human Rights Commission has the power of a civil court, and the proceeding before it are deemed to be judicial proceedings. This provides strong reaction for its finding to be treated as a quasi-judicial. So it is almost a judicial only. So the findings has to be taken seriously. Indeed, very recently the Supreme Court have held that as much in the context of opinion rendered by the foreign tribunals also opinion binding. So they have given this already. In some crucial role played by the Human Rights Commission and the requirement of the state accountability in the democracy committed to the culture of justification strongly indicates that the Commission's recommendation should be binding upon the state. Which way the Madras High Court holds will have a crucial impact upon the future of human rights protection in India. So author is recommending that the recommendations of the Human Rights Commission has to be binding on the state, and but the final call will be taken by the Madras High Court. So even if the Madras High Court is giving that this will be binding on the state government, it is obvious the state government will go to the Supreme Court against the appeal. Let us wait and see. So this is what the article reads. You read one more time. So today you have hectic day for editorial. One is a big article. I have read this, and I want you to read this SARC also as a follow-up, and I want you to read this drastic but necessary Supreme Court stopping a minister in the state of Manipur from entering the state assembly. So let us see some of the basic concepts about the National Human Rights Commission before we winding up. So today's article demands us to explain the basic concepts about the National Human Rights Commission. So I have some content with me, and you can refer this in the Lakshmikant. Go for latest Lakshmikant, that is 6th edition, because there's some updations from the previous 5th to 6th. Okay, I'll tell you what are the updations here. But if you want a clear cut, then go and buy this book itself. It's a very good book, and I'll be teaching that in detail if you want later. Yeah. So National Human Rights Commission. Okay, this is the statutory body. Statutory body, I told you, it is created by the Act of the Parliament. It was created by this Act. Write down this. The Act is Protection of Human Rights Act 1993. The Protection of Human Rights Act 1993 created the National Human Rights Commission, and it has allowed the state also to create State Human Rights Commission. Okay, this is based on the principle. The principle is known as Paris Principle, which is endorsed by the UN. So it is a concept which is actually endorsed by the United Nations on India, and we have created this Act based upon the Paris Principle. Now, every time the question can come in the mains also, okay, or any kind of question they'll ask you what is human rights. So here it is mentioned under section 2(1) and the D of this Act itself. It is mentioned rights relating to life. This you have to memorize, guys. This you have to memorize. Copy down this. Okay, rights relating to the life, liberty, equality. Rights relating to the life, rights relating to the life, liberty, equality, and dignity of individual guaranteed by the Constitution. Okay, what is that? It is guaranteed by the Constitution. So it is very similar to the fundamental right, you can say. Okay, or embodied in the international convents and enforceable by the courts in India. This is the definition given by this Act. What is fundamental? What is human right? Human right relating to the life, liberty, equality, and dignity of individual, guaranteed by the Constitution, and embodied in the international convents and enforceable in the court of law. So this is what the I'm again saying fundamental rights. What is what the human rights definition? Now, other aspects in the prelims perspective, you can say it is a statutory body. The chairman can be the Chief Justice of India or any judge of the Supreme Court. Earlier it was only the Chief Justice of India, but now they said that it can be either any judge of a Supreme Court can also be appointed as the chairman of the National Human Rights Commission. Then appointment is done by the president. Appointment is done by the president by a body of people. Okay, what is the body of people? Prime Minister. There's a committee which is recommending it. Okay, Prime Minister is The committee consists of Prime Minister, Home Minister, Leader of Opposition of Lok Sabha, Leader of Opposition from Rajya Sabha. Okay, then Speaker. Then we have got Deputy Chairman of Rajya Sabha. So this committee will be recommending on the president. So President will be appointing them. Okay. In addition to that, write down this also. They they are eligible for reappointment. Okay, so after they're holding office for 3 years. Okay, it is a 3-member body. That is also an updation. It is a 3-member body. They hold office for 3 years or till the age of 70. Okay, you know that the judges of Supreme Court are retiring at the age of 65. Okay, so here till the age of 70 they will be holding the office. They are eligible for reappointment. That also you write down. Okay, a sitting judge of a high court or a sitting judge of Supreme Court can also be appointed in consultation with the Chief Justice of India. Write down this. The sitting judge of the high court or the sitting judge of the Supreme Court can also be appointed as a chairman, okay, in consultation with the Chief Justice of India. That is what I want you to read this National Human Rights Commission as well as State Human Rights Commission from the 6th edition of the Lakshmikant book. And this is an expected question. This is an evergreen concept. Always UPSC is interested in the human rights. So this is what it is. It's a multi-member body consisting of chairperson and 5 members. Okay, so it's not 3 members. It is a 5-member body. It is a 5-member body. Yeah. So let us see the removal of the National Human Rights Commission. Okay, the president can remove. The president only president is appointing. So whenever president is appointing, only president can remove. That is a very simple concept. So they can be removed for insolvency, bankruptcy. They are not having money for their survival. So we will remove them from the job. Outside employment, if the members or this chairman is interested or he's doing something job outside his National Human Rights Commission, then also he can be dismissed. Unsound mind, he is not mentally fit. Okay, then convicted for any cases or proved misbehavior. In the proved misbehavior case, the president has to consult the matter to the Supreme Court. When the Supreme Court decides yes, they have proved misbehavior, then only they can be removed. Okay, so this is very similar to how the UPSC chairman or the members are removed. UPSC chairman and members are not removed as a manner of in the manner of the judges of Supreme Court. So it's different. So this is very similar to UPSC. So if you want, you can refer the UPSC chapter also. You can refer. The salary is determined by the central government and it cannot be reduced. Okay, so that's for the day. And any doubts, you can send me a comment. And actually, I'm not very happy that you guys are. Some views are there, but people are not commenting. I want to know whether I am doing good or you want any improvement. So whatever you say, then only we can improve us. Okay, so that is something which is I'm not happy. So please do comment. Okay, please do share among your friends. Wish you all the success. Thank you very much. Bye bye.